Hello and welcome to the MacroSheds portal. My name is Wes from the MacroSheds team. So before we get into it, I want to talk about the basic layout of the site. On the left side, we have what we can think of as kind of the information panel. We have the About tab, some info about the project, notes, some more detailed information about the project, like how we did certain calculations, Participants tab, where we have all of our wonderful team members, the Data tab, where you can download the actual core MacroSheds dataset. And for what we're going to focus on in this video, we have the Map tab. So as you can see, this is the MacroSheds dataset, mostly in the United States. You can click on any particular one of these bubbles, and it will zoom into that region of sites. Click on the plus button. It will be added to this little shopping cart down here, which you can kind of think as your control panel or shopping cart selections, which will influence this data visualization panel on the right, which we'll talk a little bit more about later. So in any case, you can use these plus signs to add sites. You'll see this information sign. If you click on that, that will take you to the Watershed tab down here, which gives you information about that particular site and its watershed. So maybe the gauge type of what you've clicked on, the domain that it's in terms of its data source, and also some different land cover and watershed characteristics and attributes summarized down here. Another important note is this third tab among these, the Meta tab. And that is going to give you important other types, important other types of history. So in particular, experimental and disturbance history, which not all sites have. And the sites that do have it are going to have this little red flag here, which you can click on, and that will automatically take you to the history portion of the Meta tab, where you can see the different types of disturbance in the history of that site. In the Meta tab, there's also citation, which will provide DOIs and actual formal citations, license types for the different data types and sources at a particular site. It is also worth noting before we dive into the data visualization panel on the right side of the website that basically this website is set up with this left info/mapping panel and this right data visualization panel. And sometimes you'll be using both at the same time, but sometimes you'll really be focusing on one or the other. And so to facilitate those different workflows, we have these arrow buttons up top. If you're focusing on the map, you can press this one, which will contract the data side. And you can also actually press this to move this kind of control board down. And that gives you basically this full screen map that you can play around with. And this is covered more in other videos on our YouTube channel, but the map has a lot of different spatial data set layers that you can overlay, so you can check out kind of visually the distribution of our site with other major variables of land cover and other things in the United States. So this is pretty cool, and it's nice to be able to have this full screen option. But if you are, as we are in this video, going to be focusing more on the data visualization side of things, you can also do the opposite and contract the map side down and focus on the data viz. So again, in other videos, we talk a little bit more about how that shopping cart functionality works, as well as this tab on the data viz side, which is the time series tab. So check out some of our videos to see these in action and how to best use them. But for now, we're going to focus on site comparison, where we have what are biplots. Here you can see precipitation against discharge, seeing this kind of like nice relationships at different sites across the plot. So with nothing in particular, let's just ask a few simple questions and look at how the data looks. So let's look at a watershed characteristic. And there's a bunch of different watershed characteristics. The way that this works in this site comparison tab is you have your site selection here. You can choose show all sites, select by a particular domain, select by individual sites, or map selections, which again is going to connect to that shopping cart that you have over here and draw upon whatever you've queued up. In this case, we would like to show comparing across all sites. And what's awesome about this is that if you have this clicked, then you can choose your variables for the x-axis from anything in MacroSheds and y-axis from anything in MacroSheds. And it's going to take basically all applicable data and show you across the whole macro system what the different site aggregated data is looking like. So let's see what options we have in watershed characteristics. So we got terrain, precipitation, temperature, NADP, snow, really a whole host of different important spatial and other characteristics about the watershed. So let's pick phenology. And among each of these sub-characteristics, you can choose even further levels of detail, so different, in this case, phenological measurements. Let's do length of growing season. And against length of growing season, let's think about maybe we're interested in, if we have a longer growing season in a stream, then maybe that will give more opportunity for diatom growth. And maybe we're wondering if that affects silicon concentrations. So here we see on the x-axis, mean length of growing season, and then on the y-axis, the mean silicon concentration for that entire site in a particular stream gauge. And so you can also, in addition to looking at just the concentration, look at the flux and see if that's different. And importantly, let's say you have results like this, and you're interested in having a logged axis. You are capable of choosing either standard or log scale axes on either side. And maybe, silicon is biologically controlled in some part, and maybe you're less interested in what you're seeing here, and you want to see a different element that is influenced by biology. So you go to the stream chemistry flux of nitrate as it compares with phenology. Or perhaps you would like to see it compared to a physical parameter. So you can go to watershed characteristics, and now maybe you choose the prism data product precipitation. And you can look at how mean annual precipitation is comparing to the flux of nitrate in particular watersheds. So here again, biologically controlled, different sites are exhibiting different relationships, as of course may be expected, and is often the case. Maybe you want to see something that feels a little bit more straightforward. So let's check out something like calcium. So here we have calcium flux by precipitation. Perhaps instead, we would like to look more directly at how calcium varies with discharge. Logging both sides to kind of tease some of that data out, we see kind of the heart of that data set here as calcium varies with discharge. And you can also use this function down here to vary point size here by proportion of record missing, or by any of these other different metrics. So in any case, the point of this is just to show the vast array of different watershed characteristics that are available to explore on the portal, as well as the many different stream chemistry concentrations, flux, and other derived products across all of our sites. So in any case, please watch the other videos on our YouTube channel to learn more about how to use the MacroSheds portal and explore, access, and analyze, and gain understanding from the MacroSheds dataset. Thank you so much for your time.